That's what I'm saying. The text is like an object. It's gonna change perspective based on where you're standing.
I don't know.
Hello?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I missed you, baby sweet. It was a day.
It was a day.
Please tell me you're seeing this too.
From Seattle, we're Drinking the Movies. I'm Taylor Baker.
And I'm Michael Clausen.
We're still finishing up these beers that we got from Hellbent. What was it again? Down with the Dankness, perhaps?
We're still drinking Down with the Dankness. And I am so down with the dankness. Are you down?
I'm down with the dankness. I don't think I'm quite as down with the dankness as you appear to be.
I'm going to keep drinking it. There we go.
So this is the first episode we've ever done where we're still drinking the same beer.
It is.
For first impressions. I guess
Our
another
first
cheers,
redundancy.
and we'll say to the end of an era.
Cheers.
It's all downhill from here.
It was a good run.
We're doing some first impressions on this one, regardless of the fact that this is not a new beer.
That's
for
right.
A first impression. So,
what are we doing today?
We got All About Nina, and we have Wildlife. Which would you prefer to view first for our trailers?
Let's do Wildlife.
Wildlife it is.
You know what they call the trees left up when the fire goes by? They call them the standing dead.
Mom, is Dad okay?
Of course he is. His pride got hurt. That happens sometimes.
That was the trailer for Wildlife, Michael. What do you think?
I think this looks like a beautiful movie. Beautifully shot. I love Jake Gyllenhaal. I had never given Carey Mulligan that much thought until Mudbound. I really liked her in Mudbound. And now I am very much a fan. Eager to see what she does here. Don't know who's playing that young boy, but I'm intrigued by him as well. I think it looks quite good. What about you?
I agree. I do quite like. You didn't dig her in Drive, just.
Not particularly. She was definitely not what I loved about Drive. No,
she was definitely like the most character-driven character for me in Drive. That
gotcha.
Provided me emotional stakes into the film.
Gotcha. It's been a long time since I saw Drive. Maybe I'd connect with her more now.
And then I think that she was really quite good in The Great Gatsby.
Never saw The Great Gatsby. So
what?
There we go. We got gaps.
Like the most. When I think about like reviews, that's the review that I think of that loves color and sound the most, or like soundtracks. Yeah. So when I think about the things you like, color and the use of songs, like you must. That's a big blind spot for you, Baz Luhrmann's The Great Gatsby take.
I wasn't sure if it was maybe a little too bombastic stylistically for me.
Oh, who cares if it's bombastic? Sometimes it's fun.
It can be. Sometimes I wasn't sure if it maybe had gone a little overboard, but...
Oh, it probably did with it. Yeah, I would say it went overboard with its audaciousness, but, you know, sometimes you just want to look at a regal prestige glory picture.
Yeah.
I guess. And that's maybe how I'd frame it. Yeah.
She was good there. You think she'll do similar work here?
Here, she looks to me, personally, like she's giving her Michelle Williams Manchester by the Sea performance.
Ooh.
Especially that end when she's sitting in that chair trying to hold that face together. When she's saying a man either has a woman or goes mad, and she's using that as an excuse so that she can go have this relationship with, I don't remember the actor's name. I want to say Tom Wilkinson, but I think I might be wrong. Yeah. Older gentleman in this film. It's a special looking movie. I'm very excited for it, and it speaks volumes of what's to come from Paul Dano yet.
Yeah. I don't think we saw her in the trailer, but I think I saw that Zoe Kazan is in it as well. Maybe she's Gyllenhaal's mistress, perhaps.
She certainly is married to the director.
Oh, is that right?
I believe.
That
her and Paul Dano are married. Oh. If not, they're life partners, or however you want to frame that. But
Celeb gossip. I didn't know. That's good. I like her quite a bit too. Solid cast. Nice sound too. That score. Very enticing.
really underlit it with a sense of power or something. It feels like it's got punches, and it feels alive. It feels like wildlife.
Yeah. Curious to see where they shot it. Looks like some beautiful locations. You'll see wildfires a lot in movies. I know there was one that came out this year about some firefighters fighting wildfires specifically, but
I don't think that came out this year. I think that came out last year.
That could be somewhat recently.
Josh Brolin picture.
Yeah. Just such a startling phenomenon that I haven't really seen on film. I'll be curious to see how that melds with some of the emotional intensity of it.
Yes.
Looks good.
I don't really know how else to. I don't. We'll definitely watch this one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So they can look forward to that in a couple of weeks after this one comes out. We'll definitely be talking about it. Shall we get to All About Nina, whose trailer will decide whether or not we decide to watch it for the show?
A lot riding on this.
Let's
do it.
Hey, Nina. Comedy Prime.
They're going to give one lucky lady their own 1 hour special.
3 impersonations, got it?
Nina, this is Celine Dion. It's just Cher talking to you right now, and I believe in you.
All right, Michael. We just watched the trailer for All About Nina. What do you think?
I'm intrigued. I think it looks pretty good. I like Mary Elizabeth Winstead. The first thing I always associate her with is 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Sure.
Any other roles you really liked her in?
Yeah, Fargo.
The show. Yeah.
The picture directed by the show's favorite, Chris.
Which one?
I don't quite remember what the name of it was. Do you remember our favorite Chris, though?
Who was it? Did we agree on Chris? Was it Chris Pine that we agreed on?
No. Friend of the show.
Oh, friend of the show. Oh my God, I'm blanking on his last name. I'm so sorry, Chris. Messina.
Chris Messina.
Yes.
There's a film
right.
with Chris Messina. Let's find it. It's his only directorial effort, as far as I'm aware.
Yep. I can imagine the poster, but...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Alex of Venice.
Yeah.
She was incredibly good in Alex of Venice.
Gotcha.
But then, the big ones are Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Gotcha. Yeah, I never saw that one. Yeah.
Smashed.
Yep. James Ponzolt one.
And then she had a short stint on a PBS show called Mercy Street. That's actually really good. And then a one-off season with Tony Shalhoub of a CBS show called Brain Dead, which was very, very good. It was like this political satire about how, aliens or bugs came down and took over all of our politicians' heads. And she's like the only one that doesn't lose her head to it. And she's like aware of it, but trying to make it. It was really, really good, and I can't believe it got canceled.
Aww.
Basically, all of America didn't watch it besides me. Is the problem.
So canceled. Bummer. Yeah. Well,
real good though.
So yeah, she's done quite a bit. I haven't seen enough of her work, but I've always liked her. In what I have seen, this kind of looks equal parts drama and comedy to me. Yeah. I was it's just partly because of the stand-up comedy, but I thought about Obvious Child with Jenny Slate. That movie came to mind.
Great,
female-centric kind of dramedy set in the comedy scene.
Definitely. I thought that this would be her singing, not her doing stand-up, because she is actually quite noted for her vocal range and ability. That I thought All About Nina would be more of a singing thing. She's kind of like Scarlett Johansson. She has her own side project a few times with her ability to sing, and this is her doing stand-up, which is going to be interesting.
So she sings under the name Mary Elizabeth Winstead? Or did she have like a band or something?
I think it's a band name,
really?
And I don't remember the name of it, but
I'll check that out.
Got kind of into it. I'll pull it up for you.
There you go.
It's got my boy Common.
I like Common, yeah. Common's underrated. I like Common. He was great in The Tale earlier this year.
Mm-hmm. Arguably, maybe the best performer.
Yeah. He's solid, man. I don't know. I mean, he seems like he's always gotten supporting roles, but he's just kind of a nice rock for these other leads to lean on. Mm-hmm. He's just kind of a pleasant screen presence.
Definitely.
Strong source of support. Exactly what a supporting character is supposed to do.
Yep.
I think it looks promising. maybe kind of a fish out of water kind of element to it. You know, character moving from one city to another. Seems to be kind of maybe poking fun at that sort of LA, West Coast kind of culture. It's just coming into that lady's house.
Specifically that super affluence where someone's like, I'm water-based.
Yeah, exactly.
Not necessarily, that's not really West Coast so much as like really
it's just
affluent
a little
West
yuppie.
Coast. Yeah.
I'm intrigued. Don't know anything about that director. That name doesn't ring a bell. Is it a debut?
I think so. I saw that it was a name, so
yeah.
I didn't recognize it. It was Eve, something with a K. So
yeah.
I guess for the listeners and deciding live, are we going to watch this for the show or not? It's up to you, Michael.
Well, I do want to watch it. This is purely a matter of scheduling, right? It has less to do with interest and whether or not, like, I'll make it.
It's also a matter of whether or not you want to watch it. Well, it's at the Regal.
It's at the Regal downtown. The Regal Meridian.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look at the show times. TBD.
I can tell you they've got 2 after 7. I think they have one at 7:10 and one at 9 every weekday.
Okay.
So
it's promising.
It's a potential viewing.
Definitely. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
You're not committing one way or the other, even though we told the audience you would. All right.
You told the audience we would.
I know. I'm still trying to entrap you. I want.
Very intriguing.
Give the listeners what they want. Commitment.
Just lots to see. That's all. All right. Should we
do a cold open on Cold War?
Let's do it. First, a cheers. Mm-mm.
Dwa serduszka, 4 oczy. Ojojoj. Co płakały we dnie w nocy. Ojojoj. Czarne oczka, co płaczecie, że się spotkać nie możecie. Że się spotkać nie możecie.
We saw this film at the Polish Film Festival of noted notoriety.
Yes.
In Seattle.
We did.
We thought that it might not be too busy. However, there was a line around the block and basically an entirely packed crowd madhouse by the time I got in. I don't know exactly when you got in because you were waiting in line quite early.
That's right. I got there early just to read at a coffee shop nearby. Thought to myself, looks like it's getting a little busy. I guess I'll just go ahead and get in line. And I don't think that there was an empty seat in the house.
There was not. In fact, someone who works there who had a seat gave up their seat.
Wow.
For someone standing in standby, if you recall.
Probably some sweet Polish lady.
No, it was I think the director's son.
No
or
way.
Not like the director, but like the person who assembles all the films that SIF gets.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I think it was his father who speaks Polish.
Gotcha.
Who addressed the crowd beforehand in Polish.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, packed house. Did you get any sense for how the audience responded to it?
I mean, due to the fact that no one spoke English besides you, who sat beside me.
Right.
No, but I can tell you that everyone generally seemed to enjoy the film, smiled, laughed, and that all the way into our cars, we were probably telling ourselves, oi, oi, oi.
Yeah. Yeah, it is an interesting experience to watch it with almost the entire theater speaking a different language when you're really just looking to their body language to assess, are you as into this as I am?
Yes.
Yeah, and I would agree. Seemed quite positive.
Oi, oi, oi?
Yeah. Oi, oi, oi. 3 oi oi ois. Yeah, this is the second movie I've seen by this director. Ida I hadn't seen for quite a while, but it seems very similar in style. Sort of that stark black and white, pretty disciplined cinematography and look. But I think it's a gorgeous looking film just to start with how it feels to look at the movie.
Absolutely beautiful to look at.
Yeah.
It is, I think, equally beautiful to experience.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's kind of this toxic relationship, it's also incredibly magnetizing, and it pulls you in, and you're. I derived as much pleasure from their suffering as I did from their pleasure.
Yeah,
it's just a special movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's a chew-in for best foreign film based on what I've seen, and I haven't seen the other ones.
Yeah.
So that's just how strongly I feel about this one. I think I gave it a perfect 5 with the heart. So,
yeah. Whoa. Yeah. I guess I forgot about that.
This is My Ordinary People.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard people talking about how this was clearly the front runner until the possibility arose that Roma could win Best Foreign and Best Picture, which complicates things. I kind of feel like just give it one or the other, kind of open up the field a little bit.
But also, that's kind of great because I love Cuarón so much.
That's cool.
He
too.
gave us the
that doesn't
Prisoner of
happen very
Azkaban,
often.
so
there you go.
Has it ever happened?
Not that I know of. I don't know.
Yeah, so we'd be saying the Prisoner of Azkaban is basically the greatest accomplished director of all time, and I'm okay with that.
If you believe the Oscars are the best measure, right?
No, I just really think that Prisoner of Azkaban should have won every award.
Got it. Just love that movie.
Gary Oldman.
Yeah. I thought it was a great movie. I really liked both performances. Joanna Kulig, is that right? Live Wire, that was kind of the word that came to mind, just kind of the electricity of her dancing, her singing, yep. But the
drinking,
plenty of drinking. The male actor, I think, was equally convincing. He just doesn't get to be.
It was Thomas Katz.
Yeah. He is just a bit more subdued, so he maybe. Gotcha. There you go. He's a bit more subdued, so he maybe doesn't leap out. But I think he is an important contrast to her electricity, and I think it's as romantic as it is tragic with how it ends. I was certainly not left with the feeling of joy coming out of it, but was very much swooning for their romance, no matter how troubled it was.
When you left, did you feel negatively? Because I didn't feel joy either, but I didn't feel anything negative. I felt like the sun was rising, and I couldn't tell if there were clouds yet.
I would describe it as sadness that the only way in which these two people felt like they could be together was in death. I mean, that was inherently a sad thought to me, no matter how sort of romantic their tragedy is.
You think it's in death?
That's how I interpreted it.
Can you explain why?
Well, to me, this movie is mainly about how these two people seem to be unable to live kind of without each other. Sort of, it's about how the kind of the political and geopolitical circumstances in which this relationship exists prevents them from ever living their relationship to the fullest, and how it just constantly feels like their timing isn't right or something like that, and an eternity in death together is somehow what will be the least disruptive to their relationship. It's weird. I don't know if I've totally figured it out, but to me it is it is frustrating in how you want these two people to live together.
Hold on, is that the line that they say when they get married?
I don't remember. Well,
because you keep repeating death.
And
I'm asking you where you're getting this from.
I just think about them at the very end of the movie taking these pills together. That's what I assumed they were doing at the end of the film. Is that not what you assumed they were doing?
I didn't even focus in on that.
Oh, really?
I didn't even really... No, I just thought that was... No, that certainly adds another layer for me.
Oh,
I think I was so focused on why she was saying get to the other side of the road.
Oh, yeah. To me,
right?
they were...
The grass is always greener metaphor.
Ah, gotcha.
Right? And then they turn and like there is more grass that they're looking at, and they're looking at this beautiful sun, and so perhaps that is a distraction of their looming suicides together.
Yeah.
Is what you're thinking? And those pills are definitely poison pills?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly thought that they were committing suicide together. Do we agree on that or no? Or did you interpret it differently?
I wasn't sure.
Gotcha.
I just was generally uncertain.
Gotcha.
I didn't know if it was ibuprofen or whether it was poison.
Gotcha.
Because I don't remember them taking a bunch of pills. It was just like a pill each, right?
It's weird. I think there were multiple.
Okay.
There were like 3 that they kind of lined up each, right? On the little altar in a bombed out church. So I interpreted them crossing that road as if they were crossing over to the other side together.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which is interesting. You saw it differently.
Well, when I first watched it, I wasn't even sure that they were pills.
Oh, gotcha.
I didn't know if it was like this weird Polish custom.
Gotcha.
For marriage. And then when
I don't know.
And then when I looked it up, a lot of people made reference to the pills in the reviews. So I was like, maybe it is something deeper. But I still don't know whether or not they're going to... Because they went back to where the bus is.
On the road, yeah.
And they're waiting for the bus
Gotcha.
Where they got off the bus on the other side of the road.
Right.
So it's right, like that's a great visual cue to the fact that they're getting on the bus to, or rather the boat to death.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the right way to put it. Because every moment that they have together is deeply romantic. Even as they kind of have this friction between them when they are together, it just feels like they're somehow bound to each other.
It's a sultry, sexy, juicy chemistry that's just... Yeah. I was so happy to watch it.
Yeah. But the circumstances just kind of keep getting in the way, right?
Or they keep getting in the way.
Right, and that's what's kind of complicated about it, is the extent to which you think it is them that are having a problem with each other, or is it a movie about how bigger forces are affecting their relationship,
or is it both? And is it
both? And that's
is it the fact that they love each other so much and that keeps bringing them back?
Yeah,
what's so beautiful, maybe.
If it was one or the other, it'd be less interesting. I think it is a combination of both. I mean, I think there are moments of them together that are hard to watch. Like, there's a moment when he slaps her, right? Like, not every moment is joyous. But then there are moments when you feel like they are 100% meant for each other. And that's, I think, a good thing that it's complicated. It's not too simple. But yeah, I mean, I did sense almost exasperation at that conclusion as they were taking those pills. It's them saying, we are done with this world. Nothing in this world has helped us be together in the way we want to be together. Which I
did not get that away. And you didn't even write that in your review.
I know. I kept it short. But yeah, that's how I interpreted the ending, and I think I do.
No, I think you're probably right. It's just I didn't get it.
Yeah.
I think I was just so swept up in the romance.
Yeah.
And hope that I was like trying to not look at the pills.
You're like, it's gotta be optimistic.
She got you out of prison. She left her husband. She left her son. You guys are married now. You're gonna be so happy.
Yeah, I think it is a tragedy, but
a beauty of a tragedy.
Yeah, a deeply romantic one. And I liked sort of those skips in time over the course of the film.
Oh, great decision.
Yeah.
It was jarring at first, just because I was trying to adapt to where we were.
Yeah.
But once we were there, and we were never not there.
Yeah. To me, it really emphasized sort of the cost of lost time on this relationship. You're so happy each time they do reconnect, but you also kind of feel the time that they didn't spend together since they last saw each other, and it just feels like these moments that are gone. And when these moments do slow down, like I think one of my favorite scenes, besides her dancing, because that's just great.
Oh yeah.
Is when they're on the boat. I don't even remember what city they're in, but they're on the boat. He's holding her, and the camera is just kind of lingering on the buildings and the architecture around him as the boat is moving. And it's just so nice when the movie finally slows down, because so much of this is about time that they lose with each other, that you really treasure when they do have time together.
In your review, you referenced astutely and aptly the Before trilogy.
Oh yeah,
and that is exactly what this movie felt like. It felt like a super abbreviated, total version of the Before trilogy.
Just sort of the effect that what a moment with another person can feel like, and how long that can feel, or how short it can feel, and then to spend a long time away from another person, and how devastating that can be. It's kind of hard to articulate without kind of going through scene by scene, but I think the movie just feels rich with that kind of idea about how the passage of time affects your relationship with people.
Especially, I think that visually we maybe best see it, or maybe it's visually best articulated to the viewer when he makes this plan with Joanna to leave, and he's crossing from East to West Germany, and he's sitting in East Germany right next to the line, smoking basically an entire pack of cigarettes, and it seems like when he finishes the pack, he leaves. But the slow shift of his face over this moment, because this is an 85-minute movie, but a huge chunk of when you think of portions of a scene, a huge chunk of time, almost 3 to 4 minutes, is spent on him smoking these cigarettes, waiting for her, and the fact that she never comes, and the slow shifts that happen on his face, I think really visually cue us into what these emotions are and how to feel this stuff. The way that half of any of the Before trilogy movies give us Ethan Hawke's face. I feel like in 4 minutes they do what a half of a movie does with Ethan Hawke. It
is just a compression kind of those same ideas. And it's God, it looks beautiful, and it just sounds great, right? I mean, the music just so accentuates the romantic feel of it, right? You said sultry, right? That's the right word. Or smoky jazz, right? That's what they say in the trailer. And I'm like, yep, it's the right way to put it. And it's just an interesting arc. She kind of goes from that folk singing setting to these smoky jazz bars. And there's that through line of the oi oi oi. Just really nice sort of sonic connective tissue.
But she also goes from this innocent young girl to this not quite an old lady, but a mother. She goes from a daughter to a mother. And it's almost all away from him. And it's these moments of separate adulthood, or separate longing for her true identity, that she spends with him, where she's this separate person that I love this movie. I love their love.
Yeah. It's weird. You kind of just want to gush. It's kind of hard to know what more to say about it. It's just because the things that you do say just kind of mean that much.
Yeah, because basically as soon as you loosen the hose for the faucet, it's just all a gush, and it's like, how do I frame this gushing into a way that people can understand it?
Yeah.
And I don't really know. It's like, as much as First Man was visual jazz, this is emotional jazz, I guess, is how I'd put it. And I don't think that any adult audience that wants something serious and beautiful would be left wanting more after this.
Yeah.
I think that you will be jarred by how quickly it ends with its 85-minute runtime and how it ends so abruptly. Like I was, and like it seemed like the entire audience was. I couldn't hear them, but everyone was talking in quite loud volumes about right when it ended. So it's something special, and I love it. I just it's hard to frame it right.
Yeah. I mean, I gave it a 4, but like I don't know that I have complaints. It's just almost like I feel like I almost just didn't get all of it because I was kind of jarred by the ending. And couldn't quite decide what to make of sort of these bookends. I remember at the start of the film them being in that same bombed out church and them returning there in the end to commit suicide together. There's just sort of things. So
there's some bigger ideas maybe that you want to suss out.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's less a criticism of the film than I think. Sometimes it's just about what you get from it, right? Like I feel like
you're almost criticizing yourself as a viewer because you haven't yet processed as much as you'd like, and you're really mad at the distribution for not giving you it now.
Exactly. Yeah. Just knowing kind of where this movie ends up on a second go round, I think will illuminate certain things about the beginning, and I don't see this going down by any means, but it could absolutely go up. It's just a matter of feeling like I can kind of get to the depths that I think are there.
Yeah, I think that anything shot this expertly with this brutal sense of honest love, I could just sweep all these movies up and put them in my 5 bin. The Before trilogy, there's just something really special about these types of love stories because they feel so honest. And there's so few that feel this honest. Like, I don't feel like it's dishonest. But I guess before we move on, maybe the greatest strength that this does is how it transforms Joanna from seeming like a legitimate 16 to 17-year-old schoolgirl who just stabbed her father recently because he tried to rape her.
Yeah.
And later is transformed into this elder mother who maybe is near 40 by the end, if not older, and how believable all of these makeup transitions seem. Thomas Cott, age transition seems very realistic. There's a supporting actor who is Russian, I believe, who seems very believable in his transition over time. So those not special effects, but rather makeup and costume design and that sort of stuff was really expert, really well done.
It's, especially in light of those jumps in time, how smooth it does feel, kind of despite that, I think is kind of impressive, right? You don't feel like
that needs a strong tone to work.
The ending was maybe jarring for me, but I was never really doubtful of who these characters become, even though we don't see certain parts of their lives. It's very smooth in that sense. I don't know that I have a lot more to say, but I loved it.
It's a lovely movie.
Yeah.
I love it.
Cheers.
Well, I guess it's time for my least favorite movie of the day.
Do you know how much I love you? I love you more than everything.
Everything?
Everything. Everything.
Beautiful Boy, which I had the highest of high hopes for.
Did that hurt the rating even more than you
don't
think it
think so.
otherwise would have?
No, this is one of those really weird cases where while I was watching it, I became aware that I needed to completely dump all of my stuff that I came into the movie with and just try to find redeeming qualities. But while there are redeeming qualities, there are also some really strong criticisms that I have for some people in the film that I think are getting given a certain leeway because of where they are in their career and how people don't want to go against the grain maybe and criticize them, which I think is maybe just a cultural agreement rather than actually someone looking at what's happening.
Yeah. Who are you thinking of?
Timothée Chalamet.
I had a feeling.
Yeah.
I had a feeling.
Yes.
Not a fan of his performance here.
It's not that I'm not a fan, it's that he's not doing anything different.
From what he has done before? Or what,
yes,
or
he's just mixing what he did in Lady Bird and what he did in... Call Me By Your Name. He's mixing those two sensibilities of super emotionality, crying, being this raw nerve, quote unquote, where he seems like a raw nerve, but he's really not because of the way that he's acting with Holding. And then kind of acting like he can also get the range to that dickishness that he has in Greta Gerwig's Lady Bird.
Liked him better there.
No, I think that Call Me By Your Name and Lady Bird are equally great performances by him.
Yeah,
and that he's. I think that he's commingling both those performances, and he's not doing anything original. And I'm starting to pick up on his tendencies. It seems like he's kind of recycling that character that he used in Hot Summer Nights, which I know you haven't seen, but he's not. When Tom Cruise was young and he maybe did Legend and stuff, like I saw this range where he was really going out there on a limb, trying out this new emotion and trying it out. And I don't see him trying something new out and really putting himself out there. He seems like he's really restricting himself to what he feels comfortable doing.
Gotcha.
And, he's in one of my top 10 movies. Like, it's not that I hate
Which one?
Chalamet.
Oh, Lady
Hostiles.
Bird? Oh, Hostiles. Yeah, gotcha.
So I'm not against him. It's just I do think that people are giving him way too much leeway because he's a child star or whatever. He's like the next handsome Justin Bieber or whatever. And it's like, yeah, maybe, but he's still not doing that good of a job here, guys.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that his performance here is one that I would particularly champion, but for me it
do
did
you know
what
that most people are?
Not really, actually. I don't know.
Most people
are people gunning for like a supporting actor or something like that?
Well, just all the reviews that I've seen are saying how great he is in
Gotcha.
this, and I'm just gonna push back on that and say bullshit.
Gotcha.
Definitely not.
I mean, I think it's.
I think Mara
it's solid.
What Mara Turney does is more impressive than everything that every other actor does, and I think Steve Carell's second to Mara. But I really think that what Mara Tierney pulls off with her subtle emotions and how she manipulates her facial muscles and her neck muscles to really express stuff without saying it is that next level.
Yeah.
For me, it reminded me of what Steve Carell had done in Foxcatcher, actually, as an actor.
Oh,
where it's just this incredible performance. Kind of this tour de force, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was certainly maybe a little more interested in Steve Carell than Timothée Chalamet in this movie, even though Chalamet's the addict who naturally would draw some attention to himself.
Well, it's based on both their stories.
Yeah.
Which is another problem I have with it.
What do you mean by that?
So they took both their books.
Memoirs or something.
They wrote a screenplay.
Yeah.
About two separate autobiographies.
See, I would never would even notice that.
I definitely got the sense that it didn't have a central character.
That's fair. I felt it hewing more towards the father's perspective than Timothée Chalamet's perspective, and that the movie's interest was more so in what it feels like to have a family member succumbing to addiction than what it feels like as an addict to be suffering with addiction.
I kind of agree with you, and I've read like maybe 12 Letterboxd reviews that go the total other way.
Oh, really?
So I think it's definitely a 50-50 thing where I think that it's... If you would have chosen one autobiography to make a screenplay out of and make this film out of, I think it would have been I think I personally would have been a lot more receptive.
Yeah, I think the flashbacks, I think, were a pretty big role, or played a pretty big role in helping me see everything from Steve Carell's perspective, because all those looked like they were from Steve Carell's perspective.
I think I definitely would agree with you, and I think that that's maybe what compromised it for me, those flashbacks, because it made me not... It just detracted from who I'm supposed to, like, go with, you know? Like, in Sisters Brothers last week, we know that we're with the Sisters Brothers. Even when we're spending all this time with Riz. Yeah. Ahmed. And Jake Gyllenhaal, we still know who our main characters are, and we know how to view these characters in that context. Whereas in this movie, I never knew how to view any character in any context because of its convoluted voice. And I think that it had something like 5 or 6 writers attached to the screenplay, let alone the separate autobiographies. So I really just think that it's a convoluted voice thing that got to me. But any moment that I was with Mara Tierney, I really did enjoy her performance, and I was taken by it. Steve Carell was very good. It was just convoluted, and I don't think there was a really strong visual direction to the film.
I would agree with that. I think that's easily where my biggest gripes are with the direction, but maybe less so sort of just with the perspective and the story that we actually get. I mean, I do think I got a really good sense from this movie about what it feels like to be a dad who's having to watch his son suffer with addiction. Like, I had no problem at all connecting with Steve Carell's character. I mean, I feel like that's what this film... I agree with you. It feels like that's what this film was meant to do. That idea that you could be a parent with your kid out there knowing they're suffering through something, and not knowing what to do, that sense of helplessness, I think was very clear. Yeah. And it didn't want to withhold from us just how powerless the addict himself felt to his addiction. I think I would have felt... I think I would have lost something had I not sometimes gotten those scenes with just Chalamet, even though that's like a change in perspective, obviously, because Steve Carell's not there. It does importantly show me just what exactly Steve Carell feels so helpless against. But that said, while I connected with them individually, completely agree with like sort of the visual style. I think it's a little all over the place. Just the it's kind of a combination of things. It's kind of the editing, it's kind of the music, it's the framing. It's just a little all over the place. I don't know. It just doesn't really come together in kind of a cohesiveness that would really help make this more powerful than it is.
So we're gonna get to another one later, but this is a biopic.
Yeah,
whether or not
I would agree.
You know, we think about it as such.
Yeah.
I don't think that you went into it thinking it's a biopic.
No.
And I think that maybe that allowed you more leniency with it. Whereas I maybe went into it thinking more biopic. And I also went into Bohemian Rhapsody thinking biopic. And I think that you, because you were thinking biopic and classic structures of biopic, were maybe harsher on Bohemian Rhapsody than this. But if you go back and you watch this, and or if you at least think about it maybe for a while, and the fact that it is a biopic and it's following these biopic structures, do you think that you would be a little bit harsher on it?
No, because I think this...
What did you give it?
3.
Oh, okay. So
not great.
Okay, I thought that you gave it a higher score than Bohemian Rhapsody. So you gave it the same score as Bohemian Rhapsody.
It's just weird. Like, I don't know how to compare those films. They're just too different. They're both biopics, but I think I got a much better sense of the interior experiences of these characters in Beautiful Boy, but thought that the direction was kind of a disaster.
Whereas Bohemian Rhapsody, the direction is
maybe the other way around.
Greatest strength.
Right.
And not really the direction because of the fact that there's a few different directors that work on this. It's more the cinematographer and the editor that seem to be the aces in the hole for Bohemian.
Yeah. I come away from Beautiful Boy thinking this movie just taught me something about how it feels to be a person in a certain situation. Formally, not a good experience. It was jarring in many ways. It's really two competing things, so that's why it just kind of ends up in the middle.
Do you think that with the correct form it would have been better though? Like, I feel like with the right screenplay and a focused form on Steve Carell, the absence of Chalamet consistently, and then those brutal moments where he goes and sees him in the diner. So if you only take the moments where he's with Chalamet, and then we just see him absent of Chalamet trying to interact with his other kids, and that forlornness and that emptiness that's on him, and how his office is strewn with the stuff for him, and how he comes home and his wife immediately leaves chasing him. But you know, like, if we got that sense of it, I feel like it would have been a much stronger film. But the fact that we're spending these moments in time with Chalamet completely convoluted who I'm emotionally attached to, and really compromised, I think, the voyeurism experience of who to attach our emotions to and suspend our disbelief with. Yeah. And because of this constant back and forth, it never had a consistency to it that really seemed like what the trailer was going to promise us.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, there's that kind of long stint towards the end, right, where Chalamet is with that girl.
Yes. Great
way
actress.
Too long.
Love her.
I liked her too.
She's in Last Man Standing. She's in Laggies. She's a great young actress.
Yeah, but I would agree. I kind of liked her there, I suppose. And I was involved kind of with those scenes, but I do think it's too long of a tangent.
Yeah. It didn't serve anything,
agree.
right? Like, it's something that in a historical drama we would say, why did we go off on this 30-minute tangent?
Yeah.
But I feel like we aren't willing to be as critical maybe in films of melodrama like this, the way that we are in historical epics, because this feels like we're being cruel, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like criticizing these types of moments in these types of films feels crueler than criticizing a 30-minute tangent in a historical biopic, which if you would have made that historical biopic at the time, it wouldn't be historical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that maybe we feel like we can't punch as hard at some of these movies. And I think that, we got to punch harder.
Yeah. It's all in service of great art. So I agree. And I think what does distinguish this movie for me from other addict movies is that it is at its best from the perspective of the parent. So when it does deviate, that helps give some context, but it just spends too much time there. I would agree.
And I mean, obvious greatest thing about it is that Holly and Michael had a child.
Yes. That is why I gave it a heart. No, I'm just
kidding. So what do you think about Chalamet? I gave all the scathing negativity about it. Do you have anything positive to say, maybe? Shift my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I did not dislike his performance by any means. I thought it was strong. I mean, I do think had they, I don't know that I would have wanted him replaced by anybody else. I thought the way he kind of bared his teeth as he becomes more and more addicted was sort of this interesting physical gesture I hadn't really seen him do that just looked like he was becoming this sort of body and kind of losing his personhood as he just comes, as he becomes more
you viewed that
driven by his
as
impulse.
Kind of a fighter. I viewed it more as wincing.
Yeah, I would. I don't know that I would say fighter. I think I would agree with you that it's wincing. Yeah,
when we get to Rami Malek, it'll be more of a fighter.
Yeah,
but with this, I feel like he was wincing and constantly, just trying to not die.
Did you not like that?
It's not that specific choice. I didn't mind one way or the other. It's basically all the other stuff where he didn't give an original performance is how I'd best put it. He gave a conglomerated performance.
Yeah.
Best way to maybe compare it for me, just I guess off the cuff, is when I watch American Made with Tom Cruise. You know, he's 50 years into his life now, or whatever. Maybe he's in his 60s, I don't know. He's given innumerable performances, spent 30 years performing and acting. Yeah. And he still gave... He took all the stuff that he's done and he twisted it into this way that made it feel fresh and new. And Chalamet took all the stuff that he's done in the last 2 years and he did it together and it didn't feel fresh. It felt like he was recycling it on purpose. And I don't think that it will ever be remembered as one of his better performances. I think that he's capable of much greater stuff than this.
Yeah, I still might disagree a little bit. I completely understand. I think I associate his performance in Call Me by Your Name with sort of sexual adventurousness. I feel like, you know, there is some almost like ambition, some willingness to explore to that character. In Lady Bird, it's smug, it's cocky, and here I get powerlessness. To me, they do feel kind of different.
Hot Summer Nights is what I'm referencing from the powerlessness.
Okay. Gotcha.
He's caught up in this drug situation where he's kind of at the victim of a... No, he's a dealer.
Okay.
Gotcha. But he can't get out of dealing, and he has to like get deeper in. And so kind of a conglomeration of those three performances for me is kind of what's going on here.
Yeah.
And whereas, I know you haven't seen it yet, but... or maybe you have seen it, The Land of Steady Habits.
Yeah.
So the boy in there, what he does, I just that consistency in his range and the fact that he's hurt the whole time, but that he's this believable character, I think was much more believable, and it just didn't translate for me that Timothée Chalamet was a believable character, and I think that maybe he got too caught up in trying to focus on age and shifts. Maybe he was doing too hard of a character study and just made an error. But I definitely see an error on his part of this performance. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's weird because of what I know he can do with other directors, like, and especially with how not cohesive the direction is, I kind of wonder if the director maybe just brought the wrong thing out of him. So like I would agree, it's like the performance is off, but whether to whom I attribute that, like, I don't know if I can decide. It might be that this director was sort of not committing to either the idea that Steve Carell no longer knows his son at the same time that he wants to build up this father-son relationship.
See how you're looking at it, I completely understand, but how I look at it is that's the screenplay's fault. The fact that the director didn't know what to do is the fault of the screenplay.
Well, he partly wrote it, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean...
Partly, with what, 6, 7, 8 other people? Like...
Yeah.
It's just too convoluted.
I think we're getting to the same place. Yeah.
So you're going to lower it to 2.5. Great.
I mean, I would keep it to the 3 because I think the feeling was there. I liked what it was trying to do, even though it just kind of got there in a messy way. I thought there were some some of the flashbacks worked for me. To me, that's
definitely where I felt the most emotion.
Yeah. To me, that was something very fresh to me. This idea that a parent would sort of look back on and question and regret how they talked about drugs with their kid. To me, that was really interesting.
How about when Steve does the coke?
Yeah.
That was a great moment.
Fascinating.
That was truly... Like, I think that when I think about that, maybe that's really changing or coloring how I'm criticizing this film because of how great those moments are.
Yeah.
And how moving he was. The fact that we're spending any time with Timothy is wasted when Steve is giving us this.
Totally makes sense.
Because
that can be very frustrating.
If Steve can be this powerful of an actor, then why are we giving Timothy this excuse that the director is messing up his performance when we're not doing that for Steve?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
And I might be wrong, but that's just how I'm kind of thinking about it. Where if this great performance is, if his performance is good and it's coming through, regardless of the bad direction, and Timothy's performance isn't coming through, regardless of the bad direction, then I think that that's not a good performance.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's just like a slight difference in like how strongly we feel about certain things, but I don't know that we're disagreeing about much. What was I going to say? Oh, about the editing. I liked some of the shots of Steve looking at his other two young kids.
And how hollow those felt. Yeah,
there's never much exposition about how he relates to those two kids that he has with Maura Tierney. But to me, they still were sort of rich cuts in the sense that you kind of see him thinking about who they might become and what he can do differently, if there is anything he can do differently to put them on a different path. To me, those were visual moments that very easily could have been explained, with some conversation about, what's going to happen to these? What if I mess these kids up? Exactly. That was subtle. Steve Carell in general, I think to all his roles, he brings kind of a fatherly quality. So to me, this is sort of like the perfect role for him. Even in The Office, like he feels like a father figure in that office. In Foxcatcher, he even says to himself, coach is a father, a mentor. He feels like sort of this surrogate father. I think that's
40-year-old virgin.
That's a funky one. I don't know if it works everywhere, but I think that there is something about, to me, that's one of his distinguishing qualities, is something fatherly about him.
Do you think we'll see that in his role as Donald Rumsfeld?
Is he playing Donald Rumsfeld in Vice?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. I don't know if that'll carry through. It's probably going to break the theory.
I don't know. Rumsfeld could be quite fatherly.
It's interesting. To me, that's just one quality I associate with him that I think makes him right for this role.
I was just trying to make it funny. No, I definitely agree with you. He's absolutely a father. Like, you think about Michael Scott and you think about, like, the father you get one over on.
Yeah.
He's basically
the father you're embarrassed by.
He's basically like maybe the father you're embarrassed by, but also the one that you can like get over on, like get away with everything with, because you relate to either Jim or Pam, and Jim and Pam are always getting away with something, unless you relate to Dwight, who never gets away with anything with Michael.
Pretty much. Yeah. But yeah, on the whole, some strong emotion that engaged me, but a little messy.
Quite messy. Yeah. I guess last segment is, do you have any thoughts on Maura?
I thought she was good. I mean, I think you connected with her more so than I did. I think she was a strong supporting character, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. You?
Oh, I've loved her. But
I
already went over it. She's great.
Yeah.
Definitely the most important performer to the film, to the believability of the relationship between this father and the son. She's the thing that makes it feel real. The way that she reacts in defense of Steve Carell's character. Is just otherworldly, and the breakdown she has in the van is just, it's that top tier level that, we reserve for Michelle Williams references.
It is kind of interesting to watch, the extent to which she tries to involve herself versus just support Steve Carell.
And as build healthy boundaries.
His real dad. It is kind of an interesting, kind of
real
almost like an outsider or something like that. That sounds like a weird word, but she knows she doesn't have the same relationship with him that he does, that Steve Carell does.
We do get that flashback moment where they're having the marriage and the speech, and
it's nice. Yeah,
those moments work, and it's because of Maura and Steve, not because of Timothy. And that's just where all that criticism comes from.
I agree.
I think they fucked up with the screenplay. But
yeah,
good performances from Steve and Maura, nonetheless.
There you go.
Shall we navigate to the directorial debut of our homeboy from Maniac himself, Jonah Hill?
That's right. Jonah Hill. We're talking about mid-90s.
You think you're pretty cool. With your ghetto-ass friends.
You good?
You think you're tough and shit. You're just a little fucking kid.
A lot of the time, we feel like our lives are the worst. But I think if you looked at anybody else's closet, you wouldn't trade your shit for their shit. So let's go.
We saw this with some of the young
hip crowd.
folksters. Yeah, with some of those folks in attendance. Sonny Solchik, I think that's his name. Handful of the other crew.
4th grade.
Yep.
Ruben. Fuck shit.
Yep. Good crew. And we both liked it quite a bit. I think we gave it the same score. What'd you give it?
4.5.
4.5? Okay.
4.5.
Yep.
Let me check. I don't want to commit to what I don't know. And what I don't know is what I gave this movie as a score. What? When did we watch mid-90s? Yeah, 4.5 at the heart.
4.5. It's way up there.
It's way up there. But it's still outside the top 10.
Is it? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
It's if we do top 10s without feature films, it'll maybe get up there at the moment. By the end of the year, it'll be in the probably right around 20.
Gotcha.
Thoroughbreds is pushed out to 30 at this point, and I really don't feel good about that.
Aw.
But Support the Girls has to be where Support the Girls has to be.
There it is. Love it. Yeah. I like this movie quite a bit. I really enjoyed Sonny Solchik in the lead role. I liked Jonah Hill's direction. I think it's sort of this interesting combination of sort of stylized direction with some realistic performances. Since they are non-actors, I think you kind of feel that. They feel very sort of... it feels almost like a documentary at times, and sort of how natural it feels.
So would you say that maybe this is one of those films that truly puts on display the importance of a casting director?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. To me, one movie it kind of reminded me of, even though they're exploring very different environments and subcultures, was American Honey. Because it employed that same aspect ratio. It has a recognizable star, but is mostly unprofessional or non-professional actors.
You mean Lucas, or do you mean Catherine?
I was thinking Lucas Hedges.
Okay.
Yeah. But Catherine Watt, I mean, I guess maybe they're equally well known. I would think Lucas Hedges is probably better known.
Probably.
But both recognizable.
You might be
right.
Yeah. Hard to say.
Shia LaBeouf and Riley Keough are kind of the recognizable faces in American
But
Honey.
Riley really does disappear in that role.
She does. Absolutely. But yeah, I think both of these movies are just kind of interesting to me in how they're sort of deliberately kind of stylized to an extent, but not looking for dramatic performances. They're looking for naturalistic performances in a way that I think works quite well. Like like they almost sound like kind of contradictory ideas, but I think it works in both cases.
Yeah, it works when the director knows what they want.
Yeah.
And I think that both directors knew exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, I would agree. Great soundtrack, even though, I was born in 1991, so I wasn't Sonny's age until the early 2000s.
You were born in 1991? You're so young. I was born in 1991.
I mean, I still felt like these were all the same songs that I grew up with in the early 2000s. Like, I felt like I knew it, like every song here. I was like, oh yeah, this is a great song.
I didn't know every song, but I recognized and knew the lyrics to every song. I couldn't tell you that I knew what all the names of the songs were.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
wasn't that hip.
Yeah, yeah.
I can tell you I don't remember any
hip.
Spice Girls.
I was a very, very hip 11-year-old. No,
very with it. In the 202s.
Yeah. And I think it kind of nicely walks the line between remembering the things about this time and place that it liked kind of culturally, while
and the
also
things that are terrible about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it kind of withholds judgment and just
shows it
as it was. Yeah.
Wasn't that like what it was like though? Like,
yeah,
thinking back on like that's what it was like.
Definitely.
Like that's how we talked, or that's how the older kids talked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how we wanted to talk, to be like the older kids. And so Sonny is this great allegory of what it's like to be that young kid trying to be like the older kid.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Although I never started smoking when I was 9 or however old Sonny is in this picture.
I know.
I did not mess with that stuff the way that Sonny did.
Yeah.
He was drinking 40s and hitting the whiskey bottle.
He was
and
hitting it hard.
Fingering girls. And he was just having himself a jolly old time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to me, it was kind of funny to think about, like, the biggest fall he takes is when he's trying to, do a gap that he's not going nearly fast enough to make. Mm-hmm. And much of this movie, to me, is about him moving way too fast into these situations, right?
Yeah, great point.
He's, to me, it seems, mainly steeped in his kind of home life. I don't think it's too heavy-handed in, like, pitying him. I never felt that. But I do think maybe
the trailer definitely had more pity, don't you think?
Maybe. Yeah. It's been a little while since I've seen it, but yeah.
The trailer shows us that whole beating scene from Lucas.
Oh, right.
So I definitely got the sense that Lucas was going to be a bigger figure and that he was going to take a lot more beatings.
Right.
Not bring more beatings on himself.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I very much got the sense that his sort of search for, a family kind of outside of his own, was the result of, his distance from his brother and his mom, as she's a little preoccupied with her romantic life exploits. Who it also doesn't judge, which I really appreciated. Like, it is not. I never felt like the filmmaking was positioned to criticize her. It was.
If anything, it makes like her seem like a victim of him, almost.
Yeah, it certainly, as it progresses, I would agree. Yeah, and he might long to connect with his brother in some way, but it's not going to happen in this movie.
Gap,
yeah. So there is sort of an isolation, right, that he's kind of trying to figure out how to resolve
and grow up and navigate life, and it's just it's a special movie. I don't know.
Yeah,
it screams directorial debut as well. It's punctuated with all this underlying tension or angst or energy, or he's just someone trying to scream.
Yeah,
it's somewhere in the vein of the whackness. Not to compare two 90s movies, but
good movie.
It's somewhere in that vein. I love the whackness, and
that's a great movie.
It's just somewhere in there, where it's just this honest, not sexy, not subtle, not nuanced. This is what life is, and it's brutal, and there's bad language, and there's drugs, and there's alcohol, and there's fuck ups, and there's forgiveness that isn't really openly forgiveness, but it's just two people moving on, and it's fuck shit.
Yeah,
to quote one of our main characters,
he said it the best.
Fuck shit, that's awesome.
Yeah. As sort of a coming of age movie, it reminded me a little bit of the 400 Blows, even though that's it's 50, 60 years old. I think he even kind of looks like that young actor a little bit. I remember the character's name from 400 Blows, Antoine Doinel, but I'm blanking on the actor's name, Jean-Pierre Léaud.
You want to blow your mind? Never seen the 400
Oh,
Blows.
what? Oh, come on. I just assumed. Oh, great movie. That's right.
It's always been there. It's always been there.
Yeah.
I'll watch that when I watch, what's the other one that I have to watch for Blowout?
Oh, Blow Up?
Yeah.
I'll watch, pair them together.
I'll watch the 400 Blows and Blow Up. I always meant to pair them, so I'll have to. That'll be a spring viewing for me.
Yeah. Something about how the character in the 400 Blows is also has an absent father, is getting into mischief and kind of looking outside his family for his identity. It's just kind of that similar story of a young person maybe brushing up with adulthood or the realities of adulthood a little too fast or a little earlier than they should.
Too harsh.
Yeah. But God, I just think it's so hard to make a movie about these kinds of things. Like, I feel like I'm describing something sad. Like, I don't know that I really felt sadness throughout this film. Like, it's it's just.
But it kind of is.
It is, but I mean, it's not. It's not like it's just. I wouldn't describe it as a sob story. Yeah.
It's about grow up.
Yeah.
It's about how to grow up. It's about you've been too sad. You've taken too many hits. Don't.
Yeah.
And I think that's said kind of at the end where one of our main characters says, "You take the hardest hits. Mm-hmm. You don't have to." Yeah. And I think that might be how we fade out.
Yeah. And
like that's, I think, what Jonah Hill's thesis going into the film was.
Oh yeah.
Like, just as someone who grew up through the 90s and as someone who, you know, as an actor, I think has maybe taken some of the hardest hits.
Yeah.
Because of how criticized he's been and how much he's transformed his body and really beaten himself up, and that he got into this business to direct and write. And shit, it's 2018 and he was in Superbad in 2007?
Yeah.
So it's been started and he's finally doing what he wanted to.
Yeah.
And it's also to himself as much as it's to everyone else. Like, you take the hardest hits, you don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, it's just nice that he recognizes up until that point that he shows us like why he gets why this is fun for him, right? He's like, look, I know this is funny, like, or that this seems like a good idea, and you know, he does sort of invite you into that. He's not criticizing every choice along the way. The point is where this all kind of leads, right? Or what the consequences are when this doesn't go right, or why this is questionable.
With a very budgetarily sound car wreck.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Great budget decision.
Very true. Yep. Quite economic.
Mm-hmm.
So you liked how that was cut together?
I thought that was a great choice for someone that's restricted financially to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great casting decisions, great decisions on how to do everything. Spend money on practical effects when they're skating, spend money on shutting down streets so that they can skate down them with stunt drivers. Mm-hmm. And then when there's car wrecks, you know, you can not have a car wreck and save $50,000 and spend that $50,000 somewhere else. I think that's just great production choices. And I think that that's probably from his experience in the business. Because I think that the audio that we get takes us exactly where we need to go. We didn't need a visual. That blackout put us in Sonny's perspective. I think it was great.
Yeah. It's just about what you imply, not what you show necessarily.
And then it does show us, you know, that Sonny's there in the car wreck and we don't quite see his other arm. And then we start wondering, like, is it broken? Is it shattered? Did it get cut off? And, you know, I think it was just great filmmaking choices for someone that had really restricted budgets and or a really restricted budget. And I definitely take that into account more when I'm aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah. The only kind of question I guess I had about this film was whether was how much I sort of connected with the scenes of him hurting himself. You know, there's a scene where he's
trying to kill himself.
Yeah, well, in one scene he's rubbing the brush up against himself. That's certainly the more not non-life threatening one. But then you're right. Yeah, then he starts trying to strangle himself with like a Nintendo controller or something. Yeah.
That didn't work for you?
Not that it didn't work for me. I don't know that I had really gotten the sense from him that he was just that bothered with himself or down on himself to really
think that he felt that helpless because he's so young. I don't think that he's really contemplating deep ideas like the end of the essence of life.
Yeah,
I think that he's in so much pain and feels so outcast that he wants a sense of control. Yeah, and that when he's in this amount of pain, he feels like he is controlling how his body feels.
Yeah,
and I think that that's what it was about, controlling how his body feels, and that's maybe why he went so hard into drinking and smoking because of the control about how he feels.
Yeah. that makes sense. It was just jarring enough for me to keep me kind of thinking about it.
I definitely did too. I thought you were maybe criticizing it or didn't go along
a little
with
bit. I was kind of unsure about it, about whether or not it kind of got me there in a natural way, or if it was maybe a bit too much of a skip to what he actually did. But that's kind of a specific detail, 50, not a brush stroke, really. It's a detail. I think the things that do matter are done right. The tone, the performances, the soundtrack, in getting a sense of what this subculture feels like, all work.
And
they just work.
What talking to peers or older peers at this point in time was like, and how we used slang or how we used language, and how loose and brutal and mean and cruel those words and their use was. Yeah. And how that's just how it was. Yeah. Not that it was one way or the other, it's just how it simply was. Yeah. I think it really captures that in that unique way of, no, these kids aren't trying to make a statement one way or the other. This is simply how the culture was. Period. The end. Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of a time capsule kind of feel.
Like, we had Stretch Armstrongs and we talked like this.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And it's not right, it's not wrong, it's simply how it was, and maybe we've changed now and maybe that's better, but it's at the bottom different. Yeah. And I think that this really captures how it's different really well. And I think that that's maybe what's special moving forward with Jonah. Yeah. Is how I really trust him to have that voice of a time, I guess. Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I really liked how it handled, I think his name was Ruben, the first kid Sonny meets. The other kind of young kid. So good. Who just kind of feels like he was Sonny before Sonny came along. Mm-hmm. He was previously the youngest guy of the group. Never got given a board.
Yeah, with a less than perfect home life, we come to understand, but we don't get a lot of details. He's kind of just eager to have someone he can boss around. So he's no longer the bottom of the totem pole. It kind of implies that this can kind of be a cycle, in a very not heavy-handed way. Like this very easily could have culminated in something terrible happening to him. I think the focus being kept on Sonny was nice, while acknowledging the lives of these other people.
Yeah, and the absence of him, you felt it.
Definitely. Yeah. Just, the shots of him getting dropped off, but then not actually going home, wanting to know where he's going. I found myself thinking about that, and, it's always nice when, a movie kind of leaves those questions unanswered.
Mm-hmm. Especially when only one of the characters notices.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Any criticisms? Like you said, it's good to punch hard.
Yeah, it is good to punch hard. It's hard because this is just a nostalgic trap for me, and probably for you as well. I will say that maybe he didn't gone hard enough with the home life, but maybe that would have been worse. Maybe he did do that and he cut it out. We don't. Yeah, we don't know. It's hard because he's using these actors that aren't really legitimate actors other than the home life actors. Yeah. Of Lucas Hedges and Catherine Watterson. Yeah. I really don't have much in the way of criticism. As far as a debut film, this is kind of everything you want to see. It's filled with promise. It feels like it cut when it should have cut. It ended when it should have ended. It didn't overstay its welcome. When it ended, I wanted to keep watching it. These are all markedly good things. As far as criticism, it would be me fabricating something because of how generally great a time I had. Yeah, I think that it was as good as it could be as what it was. Yeah. And this film never could have been a perfect film. And as far as I'm concerned, the best it could have been is kind of a 4.5, that 9 level. It was never going to ascend to the greatest score, you know, a 5 out of 5 or a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And it didn't, but it did as good as it could do. It was, for me, just like The Whackness was. Yeah. I am totally predisposed to loving this type of a movie because of my cultural bias and because of when I grew up, my nostalgia. And I think that for everyone else, it's probably a 3.5 to a 4 that doesn't get to have our 1990 experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly where directorial debut should be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Yeah, I could easily take this back maybe on a second viewing. I would be curious to know if there's anybody. I mean, in a way, I think I maybe find it a little too close to becoming too much of a message movie with how it does end.
The hard hits.
Yeah, exactly. I think I already got what it was trying to tell me. I don't know that it kind of needed to be spelled out in quite the way that it does.
I love that line. That's one of my favorite lines of the year, to be honest with you.
I can't argue with that. The Florida Project was another movie that came to mind about a mischievous young person in unideal circumstances that the movie nonetheless manages to really celebrate what they find joyful in life while also totally recognizing their hardships. I think it's kind of a similar approach, but I think that movie is a little more subtle in its messaging, perhaps, than mid-90s because of how that conclusion kind of resolved. I think it's maybe just a little bit tidy. But
I think you're probably right, but I think for the general audience, me included, like I didn't necessarily pair together that he was doing that shit on purpose in the beginning. When he goes into Lucas Hedges' room and then catches a beating. That was his choice. But I didn't really think about that until after I left the theater and I was driving home and I was dwelling on that line. If you take the hardest hits, you don't have to. And I was thinking about the fact that he's the one that chose to go in his brother's room and stay there long enough to get caught. That's when he got the shit kicked out of him. And how that kind of continues throughout the movie. Like I felt like that was a general kind of a thread that was capped. And I think that you're probably right, but I think that for other audience members that, like me, that maybe didn't think about that until after the line was said, it's equal the other way too. So I think that while that's genuinely good criticism, I think that that's one of those weird things where things go 50-50 because it was maybe a really purposeful artistic decision that affected certain viewers negatively because you were maybe more dialed in and astute to what was happening than I was.
I don't know about that, but it's the kind of thing that I might just not feel in the long run. Sometimes these criticisms, they kind of fade as the strengths just overcome these other feelings, but I just find it kind of similar to other movies in a certain way, and I know that something like the Florida Project was doing something similar, and I felt even more strongly for that one, so I try to figure out why that is, and I thought that was maybe it, but in the long run, these things can kind of even themselves out, So
they just went different for me, but I totally get where you're coming from. I was just the other audience member.
Yeah, but nonetheless, great movie. Go see it.
Shall we navigate on to our final title of the show before we get to the Deuce?
We should. Bohemian Rhapsody. Cheers.
No one will play us on the radio.
We need to get experimental.
Thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening me.
Do it again. One more.
How many more Galileos do you want?
Roger, there's only room in this band for one hysterical queen.
Mark these words. No one will play Queen.
You like this movie a little bit better than I did.
Half a star better, one less heart.
We're about the same.
You gave it a heart?
I gave it a heart.
I did not.
All right. Interesting.
The one thing that we do know for sure about this film and about this podcast, pro Lucy Boynton.
Yes, 100%. I did not realize she was in this, was delighted to see her. Thought she killed it the whole way through.
She was in a couple episodes ago. What was that title called from Netflix?
Oh, the one
Apostle.
Oh, right.
She was an apostle a couple of weeks ago. I think
Great
Raison
in that as
d'Artre.
Mm-hmm. I liked her there as well. She's great. She is good, as is Rami Malek. He is absolutely a strength of the movie for me.
That's my boy.
And that is really where the heart is coming from, I think.
Yeah? Good.
Yeah, he earned a heart.
It was everyone else that detracted from the film for me. That kind of gave me an absolute... Like,
yeah.
I love Mike Myers. Mike Myers in this movie, I do not love.
I would agree. I was not crazy about him, unfortunately. I was kind of excited to see him in something, and then I'm like, I could take it or leave it.
I'd rather have Miami Beach any day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you were talking earlier about it being a biopic.
Mm-hmm.
As we were talking about Beautiful Boy, as a biopic, you think this succeeds or does not succeed?
I think that that's really interesting. I don't know.
Okay.
I do not know. When I think about this movie, I think about all the stuff that went into making this movie. And I think that because it's a biopic, it was uniquely positioned to not completely fail when the director acted like a bitch and dropped the project, and a different director picked it up.
Yeah.
And the actors, the DP and the editor held it together because they knew exactly what they were trying to make because of the format of a biopic. And so that's why I think it's so strong. That's why I really forgive it, because of that problem of the director.
Yeah.
I'm really happy it's a biopic where the editor and the cinematographer knew exactly what they needed to do, and they could help the new director come on and exceed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those where you kind of think to yourself, like, that was surprisingly not a mess.
Exactly. Like, its formulaicness saved it, I think. Like, if it would have been like that original take and the director would have quit halfway through, would have been a fucking disaster.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. In light of all that information, I totally agree. It's like, wow, like they managed to pull together something coherent. And I think it is coherent.
And beyond that, do you know when one director quit and the other one started?
I have no idea.
I don't either. And I went in looking for it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell. Like, I felt like there might have been a clear difference between the beginning lead in and the beginning or the ending lead in to that same performance.
Yeah.
At Live Aid. Do you remember when he's coming in and it's all about him in the very beginning, and then in the ending one, it's kind of framed differently.
Right. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
And there's different cups on the piano.
Yeah.
So I thought that might have been a continuation error.
Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, I really didn't notice much. And the director that came in, I think his name is Dexter something. I don't remember the last name, but he did Eddie the Eagle. Taron Egerton and Hugh Jackman. Great little movie. I really liked that, and I really feel like that comes across. And he's now directing a film called Rocket Man.
Oh yeah. Saw the trailer
with,
for
I think, Taron Egerton again. So
yeah.
He definitely proved himself finishing up this one and got a big gig.
Yeah. It's one that like is interesting to talk about and think about because of that information, but like, I wouldn't tell somebody, hey, this movie had, disasters behind the scenes and it doesn't suck. Go see it. Right? I would still just say it's bland. I would not recommend it.
It's better than X-Men Apocalypse. You wouldn't recommend this movie?
I don't know. It's a weird sort of balance when there are things you like and things that you really don't.
For me, it's in that Venom vein where it's like, it's just great entertainment. And if you want high art, just don't come see this one.
Yeah, I mean, within 2 minutes when we see him walking on stage and then we go back to the beginning, I thought to myself, oh no, like this is just going to feel so familiar. And I was just you want to come into every movie hoping for something fresh. And it felt very recycled narratively. However,
the content.
Rami Malek was great. Like,
and I mean
the music, like,
is entirely of its own, right? Name another biopic that has this much, just gay sensibility to it.
True.
I felt like that was great because I was in this audience of a bunch of old people who were all cheering and laughing and having this great time.
Yeah.
And I can't think of another movie that would have had so much of a focus on just being a gay person living life, they would have been responded to as well. Yeah. So I'm kind of overly coloring it positively, but like I was really happy that this movie that has a man kissing another man fairly consistently was met with cheers instead of a different sound, like a groan. Because I've been in those theaters where a man kisses another man and there's a groan. Yeah. And in this theater, I was next to a bunch of old guys that used to jam out to Queen wearing sandals. And these guys were laughing and cheering and smiling and crying. And when Rami was kissing these men, and that was special. Like I've honestly never had that type of a biopic experience. Yeah. So I thought that was special.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Like, I mean, that is hugely important to this movie, and it does make it a pleasure. But I would also say that it just feels shallow. Like, I knew nothing about Freddie Mercury before this. Mm-hmm. I know
and you still feel like you don't.
I know his
he
story.
Likes cats.
Yeah, but like I know nothing about what it feels like to be Freddie Mercury. That's part of what like I start to look for from biopics is I can get a sense of what a person's life was like from a Google search, but what it feels like to be that person, to go through whatever life experiences they had, is something that I'd come to the movies for.
So I agree with you, but I want to push back just because of this specific character, maybe. Yeah. I don't know if anybody really knows what it was like to be Freddie. Is maybe the thing that I'd say. Yeah. He does seem like one of those enigmatic characters where you don't quite know what it was like to be him. And if you were to manufacture a film where it communicates how it felt to be him, that might be a totally false portrayal of emotion.
Yeah, I mean, that is completely agree. Well said. I think that's like a problem with movies in general, is sort of how you can realistically capture something that we can never know just what it felt like to embody another person. Mm-hmm. But historical truths, I just feel like I can find elsewhere, and emotional truths are something I go to the cinema for, and a movie has to try. I don't feel like it tried.
Okay. I mean, when we think about these biopics, right? Like, let's just go to the most recent proof in the pudding, Darkest Hour, right? I feel like there's so much collected evidence, and there's so many quotes, and there's so much wealth of knowledge about Winston that we know how it felt based on everyone around Winston to be Winston. Yeah. From Bohemian Rhapsody, what I actually respected about it was how it gave us the proof of why we don't get to know what it was like to feel like Freddie, because Freddie kept pushing everyone away. Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. But I absolutely agree. I would like to be able to put myself in his shoes and feel what it's like to be Freddie. I just don't know that there's enough... I don't know that there's enough people alive that wrote things down, or enough visual documentary pieces of photography for us to know.
True. Totally true. Yeah. But that totally may be. But if they chose to make a movie about it, that was they chose to make the movie with what information they had, to kind of spend as much time as they do on him experiencing something as devastating as contracting AIDS, and for that to feel as kind of shallow as it did, and as sort of just another part in the formula.
So you felt like that they spent a lot of time on him contracting it?
I shouldn't say a lot of time, but I just don't feel like that was that really had the emotional depth that I thought it should have.
Was he on the record about how he felt about it?
I have no idea.
I don't either. My general sense, we start this with him falling in love with Lucy Boynton, and her coming over for dinner, and her seeing these photos of him, and finding out that when he was a little boy, his father's very proud that he was a very hard or talented boxer. Fighter. And I get the sense that he's just, as we move on through this film, that was what was most important to me. Other than the fact that the songs raise the hair on my arms and my neck.
Great stuff.
Every time it comes on, it's just this powerful music that completely affects my body. And, you know, whatever it is that we think of when we think of the soul, that's what it affects.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And that he's going through all this stuff, but he's still not giving up.
Yeah.
But I never got the sense that I really knew how he was feeling.
Yeah.
And I don't think... I don't know if they would have done that. I think it would have been a lower scoring film because it would have felt forced. The way The Beautiful Boy for me felt forced. Because they would have been projecting something false, perhaps.
Yeah. Fair point. I mean, I guess it's weird to want it to somehow to feel like it wasn't emotional enough to, in light of how sort of catastrophic certain things were, and at the same time not want a director to just guess how it felt. I don't know. That's a fair point. I don't know how to argue with that. You wouldn't want it to feel artificial or made up because the director doesn't know.
What you feel the most
it just felt skipped over somehow, or but you know, I never really had it framed in my mind that to think of him as a fighter. You know, that is a different kind of context with which to kind of run through the rest of the film. I think that would make a difference. So.
Oh, you didn't pick up on that?
Not really. That didn't come to mind. No.
They reference it a few times.
Yeah.
And they kind of focus on his hands in some shots. I don't know. I definitely went through that thinking like he is a fighter, you know, and he is not giving up. Even when he gets this diagnosis, he tells everyone straight up, and then it's let's go perform. Let's get my bitchy vocal cords in order.
Yeah,
I believe is what he says.
Yeah.
And I think that as far as knowing what it's like, or knowing what it feels like to be him, I think that the times that we get that is his interactions with Lucy.
Definitely. One of the best things about the movie for me, for sure, is their relationship.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Or how about however the hell she does what she does at the end during the Live Aid concert. When they cut to her and she's supposed, you know, she's not really looking at him.
Yeah.
But when she's supposed to be looking at him in the context of the film, what she's able to do. Yeah. Like, she's just that next level performer. Like,
I kept wanting just more from her. Not a criticism.
Give me more! Give me more!
Like, please just, like, involve her more somehow. I don't care if it's, in fact, not factual. I just want her in this movie more.
We want a 50-episode straight-to-order series for the rest of her life from Netflix now.
She was a strength. Yeah, I don't know. You know, maybe had the trajectory of the movie not felt so familiar and so conventional, I would have somehow just been a little more open to who he really was as a person. But because of how formulaic it felt, it just, you know, it doesn't encourage you to really lean into and think about who he was because of how sort of rehearsed it feels. Does that kind of make sense?
I definitely see where you're coming from. I didn't feel that way, but I definitely comprehend and completely understand feeling that way.
Yeah.
But, like, the guy that was sitting next to me did not feel that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My audience was into it, too.
Did you listen to Queen growing up?
Not really. I'm not, like, a Queen... I'm not a huge fan, but I know all the hits. I love all the hits. Okay. Right? Yeah.
I grew up with my dad always playing Queen, basically, or Tom Petty. Growing up, like, I mean, before I was 4, I knew all of Tom Petty and all of Queen.
Nice.
So there's an immense amount of, like, what would that be? When you're forming yourself as a person, I guess.
Formative years?
Yeah, formative nostalgia. So, like, the nostalgia I'm feeling, I can't even place.
Yeah.
So I may be totally unfair bias-wise, but I do think that when you put into context the fact that basically the editor and the cinematographer kept this thing on the rails, because who knows how much Bryan Singer was in charge of while he was absent
Yeah.
Like how much they shot without him really being there until Dexter came in to pick it up.
Yeah.
And I think that when you think about that fact that there were 2 directors and you can't tell really where they were other than maybe the beginning and the very end.
Yeah.
Super big shots that I definitely have a lot of criticisms of the computerized characters that are in that crowd and how bullshit that looked.
Oh, it looks so bad.
Terrible.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That was like my nightmare.
Yeah.
But the other thing is like maybe the greatest thing is what the editor and the cinematographer did with some of the tracking shots. There's this specific moment where they go on tour in America.
Yeah, yeah.
And they get on this bus and I don't exactly remember how it happens, but we get this really long tracking shot where we go like outside away from the bus and then we loop through and we look at this beautiful American countryside and then we look at the front of the bus.
That's
and the
cool.
bus drives into the camera and we go inside the tour bus and we spend time with the characters inside the tour bus and then we go outside the tour bus.
That's cool.
Into the American countryside and then the American countryside turns into a performance that Queen is delivering to somebody somewhere.
Seamless.
And it's,
nice.
And it's all seamless.
Yeah.
And you're like, how the hell did that happen? This is gorgeous. And that's like one of the best tracking shots of the year, maybe.
Those details add up.
Mm-hmm.
They
but
make
that's
the movie.
that's the cinematographer and the editor. You know, it's like this is a good case for why maybe biopics should just be left to cinematographers and editors because they're just so easy.
Yeah, anytime like one of these movies has multiple directors and it still coheres, it's like the auteur idea kind of falls apart, right?
Exactly.
It's like everybody else managed to the
biopic is the perfect genre to prove that auteur theory is pointless.
Yeah, it's like it held up. Well, it held together.
But if you want to talk about auteur theory, how about we do some Pain and Gain discussion, huh?
Oh yeah, I saw that. Still haven't seen that one. Got to see it.
I am not comfortable with that. I responded far too well to that film.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many reviews I read that said, well, if you just take out the movie, take out the music, it's not a good movie.
If you take out the music, the movie doesn't exist.
I agree. I think that is totally silly. That is as integral of a part of the movie as anything else. You can't say that. I don't think you can say that about any part of the movie. If the music is enough to give you pleasure while you watch the movie, watch the movie.
Exactly.
That's fine. Yeah.
So, fake facial hair, terrible.
Yeah, I kind of liked it.
I did not.
No.
But the fake teeth, I felt like Rami really pulled off.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He really committed, and they got the up inside the mouth shots really convincingly to the point where I really believed that stuff. And I think the lip sync editing overall was really well done.
Yeah, I would agree. It was about the only connection that came to mind when I was thinking about Bohemian Rhapsody and the Deuce was Larry putting those teeth in and looking like Freddie Mercury.
Okay.
That's all I got.
No, but I think that I'm definitely giving 1/4 of a star just to that lip sync ability. That Rami was able to do that so well. That it was so perfectly timed that there was maybe 2 times that I was drawn out just because of a slight off timing. Otherwise, it was really well done.
Yeah, I would agree.
I'm definitely giving it more cushion, but I think it's a generally good film rather than a generally bad film.
Yeah. I found it generally pleasant, right? Even if it was very familiar feeling, and I don't think that this is doing anything to, like, advance movie going. There are some movies that you think are great movies, particularly because you feel like they're doing something so different, something so daring. This feels very familiar, but it's pleasant enough for me.
Yeah. It's certainly better than X-Men Apocalypse. So,
nah,
any Bryan Singer victims can look forward to that at least.
Yeah.
He didn't completely destroy this movie.
There you go. It is not a terrible movie. Is that what we're saying?
That is what we're saying.
Okay.
And if you like Queen, you'll like this.
That's a strong enough selling point, I think. Cheers.
Deuce 5 and 6.
Do it.
Look at you.
Look at you. Look at us.
Bound for glory. Who would have thought, right?
Cheers.
Cheers. You take a big swig of that full cup.
Still quite dank.
Still quite dank. Pine needles down my tummy.
Next time we go to order it, we'll say, down with the dankness, extra dank.
We'll pull out our vaporizers and take a big ol' hit. So we're at 5 and 6 of Le Deuce.
We are.
I am a little bit more enthralled with these 2 episodes than the previous 2 episodes, but I still have some criticism. Where are you at on these 2?
I still like these 2 quite a bit. I think we get one of very few emotional crescendos in one of these episodes when Lori kind of has her breakdown in front of Candy about her relationship with Cece. Remember that in her apartment? She's at Candy's apartment to audition for the movie, and that's when she has her big breakdown. To me, that was one of the few moments in the show where a character does kind of have a big breakdown. Otherwise, this show is kind of restrained in its emotion. But I thought that was an effective scene. Anyways, awfully specific to just jump in. But yes, I'm still with these 2 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm skeptical of the breakdown scene.
Oh, come on. You're cruel.
I'm skeptical of her as an actress.
You're so mean.
Yeah, I'm not thoroughly convinced by her as a performer. In these 2 episodes, basically when I'm looking at my non-existent wrist watch, I'm thinking, when's Maggie come back? When's David Krumholtz come back? When does James Franco come back? Why am I looking at this girl from season 1 who used to work for Cece, who now is not a good actress?
Yeah, I thought it was very emotional. That is one of the only. It is the only moment in this show that made me well up. To be fully honest, I thought it was deeply emotional.
I have not welled up at this show.
Yeah,
I did well up during Bohemian Rhapsody.
Really? When was that?
It was a couple times, and it wasn't any specific moment. It was just the beauty of the music. It might have been when they were recording Bohemian Rhapsody, actually. Just kind of this overwhelming sense of the beauty of the music, not the film.
Yeah.
Not the film, the music.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cold War probably had me well up.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's overwhelming filmmaking for sure.
But this show, no.
All right. Them making the movie on the streets of New York.
Great.
Fun? Okay,
great.
Good.
Best part of the show besides when James Franco's gone.
Yeah. I don't remember if it's in 5 or 6 that Mr. Pippolo's watching them shoot a scene and Larry gets hit by the cop car.
6.
Yeah. And Mr. Pippolo's like, my God, that looked realistic. That was pretty funny.
So I think that them getting that secondary James Franco brother brought in as an interest part to this porn movie is really good for the show. Because then it makes it more interesting, and it's got better actors bringing about a focus and an interest on what's happening with this film. Because we have Maggie and we have James, both with a reserved interest in the picture that is different. She's focused on artistic sensibilities, and he's focused on making money off of it.
Yeah,
and they're each wheeling and dealing with different shitty dudes to get it done.
Yeah,
and I think that's where the show really works. And really, economically brings the viewer into that ecosystem of New York. Yeah. It's got the mob, it's got the porn world, it's got a girl that has to deal with dicks, it's got a guy that has to hold the mob at bay but also keep the mob interested. It's it's really working every angle in a great way.
Yeah, it's easily like the clearest bit of suspense. Candy now has a film that's backed by the mob, and she doesn't even know it.
And she's excited by it.
Yes.
And so is David Krumholtz.
Yes. That something will come of that, right? I can only imagine. Yeah.
Yes. And then main James Franco, just boring.
You don't find him charming?
No, his plotline.
Yeah.
Of course he's charming. He's James fucking Franco.
Yeah.
But, I mean, his story in the show is just boring at this point.
Yeah, I mean...
Oh, look, he's at the bar. Oh, look, he won't take his nephew on as a bar hand. Oh, look, his girlfriend took the envelope and he doesn't know where the envelope went. Like, it's not interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I almost find his passivity interesting in how he thinks by kind of just... What he thinks is okay and what's not okay does kind of interest me. He thinks, you know what, I'll take money from the mob, I'll let my brother run the parlor, but as long as I'm not there, it's fine. You know, his sense of what's wrong and not wrong, I think does kind of interest me.
I agree, but I don't think there's enough focus on it.
Gotcha.
And that's the problem for me, because he's such an interesting actor to watch, because this would be so interesting if we did a deep dive on it for 10 minutes with him as a character, at least between these two episodes. If we would have spent an additional 10 minutes on his thoughts on this, it wouldn't be pushing me at arm's length. But all that stuff you're talking about, I feel like, while I agree with you, I kind of think it's also reaching.
Oh, come on.
You know, because you're trying to reach for what he thinks about this stuff because you're not seeing it, because it's not on the screen.
Baby, I mean, reaching's a weird word. It's not like I'm not.
I don't mean it's not
feeling
there,
one
but
way.
I mean you're not seeing it.
I don't know. I would kind of disagree.
Subtext to me.
But he has the conversation with his girlfriend about him not being involved with the parlors, right? And he says, "No, I leave that to my brother. That's his deal." Even though he played a major role in getting these up and running. I don't know that I would argue it's subtext.
I mean, what's happening between him and his brother seems like subtext. And I guess more specifically, that final conclusion in episode 6 where she tells him that she always knew, she thinks that kind of, that, like, what are you talking about? We all always knew that this only exists because of the mob. Did you just come to New York? Nothing in New York exists unless the mob has a fucking stake in it. Like, what are you talking about? Are you an insane person? Like, I don't know. Yeah. This show is kind of like, while it's working for me, it's not working for me.
I would argue that halfway through season 1, she was still at NYU.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know that she had
professors. She was smart,
but I don't know that she really had a sense of whether or not
you
bar
she
might join would be run by the mob.
You really might be right, but when I was watching the show, I was like, how could anyone not know that this is run by the mob? Like, you have a mobster in there every single time we're in the bar.
Yeah.
There's always a mobster in there.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not know?
And
you know,
she doesn't know.
We have the benefit of being alive now, knowing that every single thing in New York and Boston was ran by the mob or the mafia.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I find it very hard to believe that someone wouldn't know that. But that does make it a little bit easier for me to handle her innocence in thinking that she can bring about change in these other venues of her character. Because if she really didn't know that, then maybe that's why she really does think that she can make changes.
Yeah. To me, he thinks he's doing the right thing so long as he isn't an active participant in any of these activities. She seems to think you need to actively be responding to these things in order to be on the right side of this.
Meanwhile, she's taking money from the mob for her own cause.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Which happens at the end with the envelope.
Yeah. I think it was in 6 that James Franco's brother, his son gets in that fight at school, and then he, starts bringing him to work and stuff like that. I think that was pretty spot on casting of that kid, because my God, did he just look over his head in some of these environments. He looked just so green and young
and so excited to be in the parlor.
Yeah, exactly. I I don't know if they're really gonna follow through with him as a character, and if they'll actually like keep him around. But he's one of the few men we've seen come into this world just sort of bewildered. We've otherwise just seen girls coming in, off a plane, picked up by a pimp, brought into this world. To see it through a boy's eyes and sort of be awestruck by it, I think reality might come crashing into him, just like his dad kind of wants it to, even if you kind of question what the dad's actually trying to do.
Well, the other thing is he got kicked out of school, but for how long?
Yeah.
At the pacing of the show, meaning real world timing of the show, I can't see us revisiting him.
Yeah.
Other than as an ornament within the house when he comes home, because it's rolling along so fast. We got 3 episodes left after this.
Yeah.
You can't spend much more time with them.
Yeah.
And then we're going to jump another decade.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be
quick.
over. So.
Yeah. It is quick.
I think it's very restrained by what's happening with this timeline. It's really suffering from it.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, a good chunk of these episodes is watching Candy film the movie, and I was enjoying.
That's what I liked. That I liked getting our 2 left shoes. I liked
that was funny. Yeah,
I like most of those general moments. I really enjoyed the opening of the upscale establishment run by our ex-gay bartender, who's no longer a bartender, but is now running with his partner, I think, this kind of upscale dining joint. Yeah. That's, I can't tell if it's supposed to be like a gay fine establishment or not, based on that scene with the what would you contextualize, like the community meeting maybe that they have?
Oh, right, where he's pitching. Where he's looking for like a license or something.
All the homophobes in the community are kind of complaining about what's happening. Yeah. Although rightfully so, as we later go to other denizens of New York and we see basically just men walking around without any clothes on at all, kissing each other and getting blown at the same time. Yeah. And basically no words happen. It's just walking sexcapades. You're right. I kind of forgot about how that scene positioned it to maybe sound like a gay establishment. But then when it actually opens, it looks like that's not that. So, that's where I don't really know, because it doesn't seem that way, but I don't know if perhaps it is, and that just hasn't come across yet.
Yeah, maybe it's meant to be subtle. Maybe that's the nice point.
Regardless, it's a beautiful establishment.
I want to go there.
Yeah.
Kick it.
It's
Great
quite
music.
ritzy.
Yeah. Love it. Uppity. I've enjoyed their plot line in trying to get their business going, trying to work their way out from the influence of the mob.
Mm-hmm. And I like the honest portrayal of homophobia in New York. I like they're not pulling punches, and they're showing how hard it is for them, but also showing that there's these 2 community leaders that are also gay. That are gonna go to bat for this establishment. Yeah. You kind of want to give a little clap for that guy. Yeah, you wanted to cheer that guy on, right? He's like, are there any other gay members of the board? And then the gal next to him raises her hand. Great. He's like, okay. Any other questions?
Moving on.
And then the girl next to him's like, I wasn't being homophobic, or like I wasn't being mean. And he's like, oh really? I've grown up in New York. I know what you're saying. Yeah. And that was just like a great, that's where the show shines, when it's showing the true, what feels like the lifeblood of New York, Yeah. And I feel like we're not getting enough of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe just a little hurried for your liking. Yeah, that's fair. But you thought this was a bit of a turning point, right? As you saw the morals guy at the very end of episode 6, I think, going into the shower with another guy.
It wasn't. Yes, it is a turning point, because he's acted like he is holier than thou and he has no other agenda in mind. Mm-hmm. But then we come to find out that perhaps he does have an agenda. Mm-hmm. And the episode 6 seems to be this message of these community organizers that are heroic and their depiction of the show seem to have a theme in common, which is that they are homosexual.
Yeah.
Which is just an interesting thing to consider.
Yeah.
I don't know how historically accurate it is, but it is a very interesting thing to consider for the show.
Yeah.
And what their message may be. Because the show very clearly has at least 9 messages.
Yeah. It's at the start of 6, I think, that we see him like with his wife and 2 kids at the breakfast table at the start of a morning. And I thought to myself, like, oh, we're going to get like a representation of somebody who's just outside of all this heteronormative, traditional guy. Nope. Completely subverted.
No, we're gonna go to a spa where one dude's getting a hand job and another guy puts his hand on his knee, and then he goes into a separate locker room and closes the door, and the show will end, and we'll be left, considering what might have happened behind those doors.
Yeah. So not as simple as I thought it was going to
be.
And then it's
do we criticize him or is he forgivable, or it's. It is working on that level with it. It's interesting, but the problem is there's only 3 more episodes.
Yeah,
and we're a decade further, and we gotta wait a year. Like,
yeah. You were saying you liked the lesbian character who runs the peep show.
She's great.
She is great.
She's such a strong character.
But not so much the girl she actually engages with and helps out of rehab.
It's not that I'm against her by any means. It's that she's not really a defined character, so I'm not at all interested in her, whereas it feels like the other character is much more defined. Even though she's reserved and not talking, she doesn't have these speaking roles. She feels like a legitimate, tangible character that I'm really interested in seeing develop.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think I completely agree, and that's but I think I liked it and you just didn't. Like, to me, she is, one we're just learning less about, but I think acting wise, she has this look of defeat about her that I find very intriguing and empathetic.
But defeat that isn't defeated.
Yeah, like she's hanging in there.
She's still punching up.
Yeah, and like with how ruthless the show is for so much of the time, like when characters finally just help each other, like it's a great relief. Like it was quite nice to finally see her getting some help from this other girl.
And that happened a few times in this episode, right?
Yeah, definitely. Or characters are just coming to stand up for themselves, like the gal with the glasses who you're less enthused about.
Quite less enthused about.
But regardless of the acting, it's at least a shift in the characterizations that makes it like a little more palatable when you see these characters either helping each other or helping themselves. You're like, oh, thank God, because I can't watch this anymore. It's same kind of feeling you get when you watch Darlene trying to put herself through school.
Yes,
right.
That we used to get when we were watching Darlene put herself through school.
Yeah. There you go.
Because the show kind of doesn't focus on that anymore. Much to
well, in 6, you see her going out to dinner with a guy, right, at a diner who she meets through class. That was a nice moment.
And then he puts her porn on the television. And
does he do that? Oh, it's when she goes.
Or is that her customer?
She goes tricking, right?
She goes tricking, yeah. And
never used that verb before.
Perhaps she has a regular who puts her porn on the television and wants to watch it with her while they engage in intimacy. And she says, no, I won't even hear it. You can look at it, but I'm going to face away from the TV and the volume has to be off.
Yeah. Which I did think was an interesting moment. Like, it's played for a laugh in a way.
I don't quite get it.
So to me, that does sort of rhyme with the last shot of episode 6 when Candy's watching herself in the porn. To me, these women have had to do this for a living and now are doing it on film, but they've never had to watch themselves do it. I think that would be startling to have to watch yourself do this with somebody you don't care about, you don't love. They talk, especially Candy, she talks about these things so passionately, but then to have to look at it and look at yourself,
through the looking glass, right?
Yeah. I thought that was going to be a more triumphant ending than it was, but the look on her face was rather ambiguous. And I think had I not seen Darlene have her reaction when she saw herself on the video, I might have not felt the same way. But to me, it would be jarring to suddenly look at yourself on TV. So I thought that was interesting. A nice way to end it. Considering I thought it was going to be a note of success, I guess. But I think she still will have success. I still think this movie's going to turn out okay.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Exactly. I think people are going to, right? Different people have ownership now in this movie.
25% stake.
That is going to be a problem. Yeah.
So that's getting to what I want to ask you. A couple episodes ago, I asked you when we started watching The Deuce if you thought anyone was going to die. What do you think now?
Yes, I do think one relationship that I think will come to a head is the gal with the glasses and Cece. Mm-hmm. She literally like threatens him almost. She says like, "I want to see you buried." Right? They keep finding each other, and I think I sense that that's going to culminate in something. I sense that Cece's relationship with Lori as well, who he punches, will also probably come to a head. Who's going to get knocked off? I don't know, but I just feel like I
feel like screen time wise, Cece's been getting a lot of it.
Yes.
You know what happened in Game of Thrones when people got a lot of screen time? They lost their heads.
It's very true. This is why it helps to watch a lot of television.
It does. I agree. I think CC might be rolling. Yep. Anybody else?
I don't know. We've had 2 robberies now where all of our kind of good guys, quote unquote, kind of got away with it. I'm a little concerned about one of the James Franco brothers who's getting more involved in those robberies. I'm a little worried about it.
I'm different.
To be honest.
I kind of differ from you because I think that James Franco maybe has a better working relationship with the mob now. Whereas the person who's pulling those jobs with him, Mike, works for the other James Franco. And I'm thinking there might be a shootout of one of these bars that he owns while he's in there. And that maybe Mike and him go down.
That is
maybe the brother too. Not the other James brother, but the brother who has this,
Seems entirely plausible. I mean, that scene in 3 or 4 where we do see that one mobster pop somebody in the street just shows it's our visual evidence for how willing they are to do it, right? They're willing to set a parlor on fire. We already knew it. They've showed us they're going to do it. It does sure seem like foreshadowing of a character we have come to love finally getting knocked off.
Yeah, and
it's about time.
They've been building this up.
Yeah.
I definitely see it coming. And I think that what they should do is they should kill Lori.
Ooh. That would hurt.
It would. I feel like that'd be the most earned one. Because, we wouldn't want it, but it would, she's already done her arc.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it would be kind of the perfect punctuation. But
yeah, I think it was at the very end of season 1 in the last episode that prostitute gets pushed out the window. She says, "My name is Ruby," and the guy gets pissed off and pushes her out. So I think the show does like to wait, right? Until the right time. It's not, deaths are doled out pretty incrementally in Game of Thrones. I think this really likes to wait for its capstone moment.
When you say incrementally, do you mean just constantly?
Yes. I don't know. That was, generous.
So I guess the other thing is, I generally, by episode 6, got from this, I guess you'd call it like a gay undercurrent of the episode, that maybe they're setting up a conversation about AIDS by episode 9.
Oh, yeah.
I really feel like AIDS is coming.
I do too.
Not just because we watched Bohemian Rhapsody, but because...
It was partly because of Bohemian Rhapsody, actually, that it came to mind.
We watched Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, it does feel like it's gonna...
honestly,
hard and fast,
that
maybe.
kind of underground scene where it was just all these naked men having sexual jovialities with each other. Like, I just really got the sense that there's AIDS and that it's in probably not our community board guy who's setting up the city, but the guy who's running this high society dining hall now. I feel like he's gonna die because he's a really convincing character. I really feel emotions for him. He seems really grounded. He just seems like the perfect guy to give AIDS to. So,
sadly,
like as a writer, you know, like that's who the audience is grounded to. You want to kill him. Yeah, especially if the other guy doesn't have it. And we've seen the other one in this underground scene, right? It's that relationship will fall apart as a result. And perhaps
entirely possible.
He and that community fellow will have a relationship with like the same guy, and so maybe by the time it ends, he'll have died. But someone he was having a sexual relationship with will perhaps be with this other guy, so we'll know that guy's about to die. Coming into season 3. I do think that there could be an interesting thing going on with AIDS by the end of the season. Building into next season.
It's gonna happen. It's just a matter of when. I think you're right. I don't know that I have a lot else. You?
Method Man's good, dude.
Method Man's rocking it.
He's a good actor. I'm very impressed with him so far.
Definitely. He's got some swagger, but he's intimidating and kind of repulsive at the same time. Just another one of those characters who you are kind of drawn to and want to get away from at the same time.
But like Common, he's good.
Yeah.
Like as an actor, he's just straight up good. Like he's got this magnetism and gravity to him.
Yeah.
Makes him good.
Yeah. And it works very quickly. He just kind of shows up. You believe he's there.
Yep.
Doing his thing.
Yeah, he kind of brings a slice of the world with him.
Yeah, especially with how short his time is on the screen. He has really small parts. He shows up at the peep show one time with the lesbian girl. But I don't think there's anything to even come from it. They just like talk for a minute. I think it's because he's looking for Shay, the girl who went to rehab. I kind of remember that now. So maybe we will get a little more screen time if he comes looking for her.
And if Cece gets killed, we gotta give him more time to a pimp.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty much. It's Method Man's rooting for Cece to get killed off.
Yeah,
more screen time.
Me too. All right. Well, I guess that wraps up Le Deuce and this episode.
Rating wise, where are you at with it? Just to take the temperature.
3.3, so 3.5 if we're going by Letterboxd standards.
There you go. All right. Solid 5 here. Oh yeah.
A perfect score?
Oh yeah, for sure.
This is disgusting.
Run! Go! Get to the chopper!
We have to go.
I'm coming with you.
That was brilliant.